I don't know if I fully realized how close I was to being a full-blown addict. I started getting in legal trouble from kind of an early age. I found out that I was going to be a father for the first time. And it just really made me analyze my life.
I just want to live, I just want to live. I just want to live, I just want to live. I just want to live, I just want to live life upside down.
So here we are, Karina. This is episode number 1 of Life Upside Down, where we are telling real stories of broken people that point to a living God. And today we're going to be talking about a really, really broken person. Do you know who we're going to be talking about?
I have an idea.
You have an idea?
Yeah, I was going to say, so a lot of people, we have friends from back at home who've known you from BC, before Christ.
BC, yeah.
And we have friends here who've only met after saved Ryan.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait for people to hear your story, because I think when they get when those new friends hear little stories here and there of how you used to be, they just are like, what?
Yeah.
That's not Ryan.
I know.
But
It's so funny. It's like people are like, you really did that? Yeah, I did, unfortunately.
yeah, but I feel like when they know your story, though, it just really glorifies God, because
yes,
they just see who you used to be and who you are now because of him. And literally it was only because of him, not because of you. And I think there's so many people out there who think, well, that couldn't be me, or I have a past, or I have, I come from a certain family or certain structure, so that could never be me. And I just love that your redemption story shows everyone no, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, where you've been, what you've done. God can redeem you and do big things with you.
And I think it's so perfect that you're here talking to me about it, because you got to see both sides. So that is really cool. So if you didn't figure it out, we're going to be sharing my story today. And again, the thing that you said, Karina, that just is my favorite part about this is that God gets the glory. That's what we're all about here. We're telling real stories that point to a living God. And Karina, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without him. You helped along the way too, and we'll get into that at some point. But before we get rolling and dive into my story, I do, this is the first episode. We have been working tirelessly to be here. And the fact that we're sitting here is a miracle, right?
Such a God thing. I was going to say, we started this podcast with the intention of just getting our stories out, but it was just friends and family. It was hey, there's people back from our hometown, friends here. Let's just share a story. And it just started sharing on Facebook and Instagram, nothing big. And then it started to the word started getting out. So they started sharing it. Then it started going all around the world. And then we started getting feedbacks oh my gosh, thank you so much. Or thanks for showing me that God is more real. He's just as real now as he was before. And he is so intentional about me now in my daily life. And so I think that, I don't know, I just feel God just kind of showed us you haven't seen anything yet. Just wait. And he just took off with this. And so and now we're here.
Yeah, we started about a year and a half ago, just all audio, doing everything ourselves, and just really grinding, and the Lord really inspired me in a lot of different ways, and to just kind of get this thing going. And we're going to get into some of the details in later episodes about what exactly happened for us to be sitting here right now. But it's just, it was maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
We just ended up in this opportunity to launch this as a high quality cinematic podcast. And it's been such a fun, exciting,
crazy,
exhausting,
terrifying
ride to get here.
Our kids are even whoa.
Yeah, the other day we were working on set here, and really just we were working really hard, and things were moving fast, and we were tired. I remember we were kind of going through some warfare stuff, and we were sitting here in the set room, and our 11-year-old came in, and he's just like, wow, I can't believe how far you've come.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the warfare was in our minds. We're trying to stay so focused and getting all this put together. And then we're struggling with like the thoughts of like, well, is this still like, we're literally seeing this whole thing unfold before us and we're still doubting and being like, is this possible? Is this really happening? Which is crazy to me. But that was going on. And then we're like, are we worthy? Are we even like fit for this? And then, you know, our son comes in the set and sits down and kind of sees everything get put together. And he's just like, wow, Mom, I can't believe how far you guys have come. And just when he said that out of like a child's mouth, like it just silenced all doubt, all lies from my mind. And I was so focused on like getting this done. I was excited again. But and then our kid, you know, our son also is doing his own little animation stuff. And he is even speaking in a way that I feel like you and I never got to speak like. Like he made a video, posted it on YouTube, and he's just like, wow, Mom, I really think this is something. I really think this could take off. And like him having that much faith on his like videos and like speaking life to it like that already, just because he's seeing God move with us and our family is so amazing. Because those are like, that's the hardest struggle that we've had to overcome to get here. And it took us 12 years.
And as we dive deeper into our own stories, like you'll hear, you know, they'll hear why that is the way it is and just kind of, you know, some of the things we've had to overcome. But yeah, so it's just incredible that we're sitting here. And on that note, to get my story started, I just want to say, like, I shouldn't be here. The fact that I'm sitting here on set, you know, and just about to tell my story, it's just incredible. It's God's hand. And that is what we are all about, is just telling stories that point to his glory. None of it was me. And so as I get into it, you know, I always say that kind of the impactful part of my story really started when I was 4 years old. And it was when my parents got divorced. And before I get into any of that kind of stuff, I do just want to say, like, I want to shout out to my parents. You know, I ended up with 4 parents because of that divorce. Divorce is really hard. Karina, you and I have seen the impact that has even now today in terms of just people around us who are going through it, and it's like really hard. But I feel like even though that divorce hurt me, and I'll get into some of that later, like each one of my parents loved me in certain ways that I needed them to. And the Bible says that God works all things for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And I know that I found healing in that, and I'll talk about some of that. But I just want a huge shout out to my parents. Like, they loved me in a lot of different ways, and I was so blessed to actually have 4 of them. And so that started when I was 4. Now, in that divorce, I remember certain volatile moments. There were some moments that were more difficult, right? Arguing and stuff. But I look back on my childhood, and I do feel like I had a pretty normal childhood, if you will. Even I think as kids, we go through hard things, and we're able to kind of mask that with our imagination. But I think of the dichotomy of, like, you know, the struggles that I was facing, but also having a normal childhood. Like, I have these memories of when I was riding a little trike around my driveway when I was like 3 or 4 years old, just having fun. It was a little home movie. My parents were there with me. But then in that same driveway, I have this very vivid memory where my parents were like pulling on me because they were like fighting over whose turn it was to have me.
Wow.
And so I feel like that divorce really hurt me. And, you know, growing up, I was kind of like at school, I was kind of a goofball. I would get in trouble, mess around, talk when I'm not supposed to. I remember everyone used to say I look like Jim Carrey. And then coming into middle school, some of the same stuff. I remember my 8th grade year, I ended up getting kicked out from one middle school, and I had to go to the other one.
That's so hard for me to like fathom in like 8th grade.
Were you a nice, good girl in middle school? Or
oh man, to get kicked out of school though. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I feel like if I got sent to the principal's office for being late or something, I
feel like you hate breaking rules.
Like,
so you're just
burst in tears.
Burst in tears. I was like, what do you want now? No, I'm just kidding. But Well, part of the reason is because I was supposed to go to one middle school, but they made an exception for me. I ended up going to this other one. And then over the 3 years of me being there, it was just like one thing after another. I would get in trouble for this and I'd get in trouble for that. And then finally, it was 6 weeks left in 8th grade. And they're like, you got to go to the other school. So I ended up going to the other school. Anyway, so I just, kind of a troubled kid. And then the next kind of big point for me in my story was the summer of my 8th grade year. I got in some pretty serious legal trouble with the cops. And so it was summer, and me and my friends started pushing his parents' car out of the driveway, just being really quiet, and then getting in and starting it, pushing it. And so we started sneaking out. How is that? Did you ever do that when you were in middle school, Karina? Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh.
So we start sneaking out kind of consistently, and.
Wait, this happened more than once?
Yes, it happened more than once.
In the summer of as eighth graders?
As an 8th grader.
That's crazy.
Yes, as an 8th grader. So we start sneaking out consistently, and then there was this one night where we sneak out, and I don't remember whose idea it was.
It wasn't yours. It wasn't yours, right?
I don't know.
I hope it wasn't yours.
I was kind of destructive, so
Well, tell us what it was.
So I feel like maybe it was. So we had this idea to just smash out a window. And here's the thing. So we drive up to it, windows down. We bust out the window. We're like, oh my gosh. We drive off, and we left it at that. Okay. Here's the thing. The next day, we did it again.
Why do I have anxiety?
I know.
Right now?
Can you imagine our kids?
Don't ever share that with our kids.
I know. Don't want to give them ideas, right?
Yeah.
So the next day we went out again, and we went crazy.
Again?
Yes, we did it again. That time it was only one. The next day it was like, and we were so dumb.
Yes.
I'm sorry. When you're in middle school, you just make such dumb decisions.
I wasn't that dumb.
We drove around our little hometown. It's got like 60,000 people in it. Probably for like 3 hours in the middle of the night, just whacking windows.
How many?
It was $16,000 worth at the end of it all. So anyway, we're breaking windows, and then we're parked on the side of the road, and a cop just pulls up next to us, and he looks over, and we just look over at him. He doesn't turn his lights on, and we're just like, okay. He ends up backing up and stops behind us, doesn't turn the lights on yet. And then my friend just is like, he just pulls off and tries to drive off. They turn on the lights. We get pulled over. Big trouble. Like I remember that drive home with my parents. It was probably the scariest drive home. This cop was
probably like, these kids should be.
Yeah, I think I was 14 at the time. Or no, I was maybe 13 or 14. Past our bedtimes shouldn't. Yeah. So anyway, it was terrible. Like I remember that drive home from the police station. That was a pivotal moment. I feel like there's this age where we start kind of like moving from, that innocence and kind of, hopefully it's not that young for a lot of people.
I missed that stage.
You didn't.
I never went through that.
So I got in some serious trouble, and because of that, I actually ended up having to pay back. It was $5,500 for my part. And looking back again, as I was thanking my parents earlier, like one thing that my parents did that my other friends, their parents actually paid it off for them. My parents made me pay every last dollar. Like I spent all of high school working, and every single dollar I got, except I would get $20 from my check. I remember I'd buy like cheesecake from Perkins, and I'd buy a new hat every once in a while. So that was about as much money as I got. The rest of it, it all went to this fine. And I remember my senior year, I finally paid that off. But that was a big part of my story, is like, I started getting in legal trouble from kind of an early age. And so to kind of touch on some more of that, another thing that is a big part of my story that also kind of started in middle school, but even before that, was pornography. That was an addiction that started from a young age. I remember, I want to say it was maybe 7 or 8 years old. Like I know
pornography is like very common. Like from a lot of men that I've heard their stories on that, they started really young. Mm-hmm. So like, what was your? Well, yeah, I think you got started. The
first pornographic image that I saw was, I think I was like 7 or 8, and it was on the playground. It was just like, it was literally underneath an AC unit. I remember exactly where it was. And that's the crazy thing about this stuff, is like, these things, and in some ways I feel like that's trauma. Sometimes we think about trauma being like something bad or abuse, but I think trauma is really just anything that marks us and like hits us deep. And I remember exactly where I found that for the first time, that image. And it was on the playground, 8 years old. And I just, to touch on that a little bit, I just feel like when you're not prepared, I didn't have any conversation with a parent of like even what is sex or any of that stuff. I was young. I would hope we wouldn't need to have those conversations, but we live in a culture where it's not like that anymore. But that just, it hit me. And it's like, I can see the image today. It's like seared in there. And so that's kind of where that started. But then, as I was saying, it was, I think 7th grade was the first time I saw like video. We were at my friend's house and he found this video that his dad had, and we were in the basement and we watched it. And I'm telling you, from that moment forward, it just gripped me. I was just like, what is this? Like there was just this feeling. It's almost like there's this feeling in your stomach when you do something you're not supposed to do. And it's like, I know this is bad, but there's something about it that feels good.
And
right?
when your friends are doing it too, it's
exactly,
like,
yeah.
It seems normal.
It's normal. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what you do.
Did you have any friends that like encourage you to do anything good? I'm just curious where you're finding these friends.
Well, I met you later on, and we'll get to that, but I don't know, maybe not.
Okay, go on.
So anyways, so I brought that addiction and some of those troubled habits and stuff into high school.
So seventh grade is when it became a legit.
Yeah, it was, addiction. And I remember like it was an addiction. Like I remember after it happened, I would like call him almost daily, like, "Hey man, can I come over? Can we watch it?
My goodness.
Like, let's, I want to see it again." And it just started gripping me. And then I, like, I think my brother had somewhere, like he was also, he's in high school, same stuff. And so I just started seeing it here and there, and it just became a real thing. It was a struggle. And so I brought that into my high school years. And so how that kind of impacted me, I think it just skews your view of women so bad. And looking back now, like what I know, of how God calls us to look at women, like it breaks my heart. Like it breaks my heart for young teenage Ryan. It's like, there's so much better. And the crazy thing is like in that specific struggle, pornography, but even sexual promiscuity and, that type of stuff I'll get into in just a second. But like, I knew it was bad. There was a part of me that's like, this is kind of gross. And it's, when it comes to pornography, like there's things like trafficking attached to it that I know now. I don't know that I necessarily understood that then, but it's like, it's a very shameful thing. And I think there's a reason. And I think it's good that we have that shame. It should be there. But I remember like, I had moments I'm like, gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. But then it was like the next time I needed my fix. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so
I was going to say, I feel like pornography has become such a normal thing. Although you're saying over here, like it comes with this shame, like you still have that feeling of like, this isn't right, like afterwards. But I just feel like women and men have made pornography such a normal. We've just embraced it and accepted, like, well, everyone's doing it. This is normal. Like it's okay, or it's not technically cheating, and it's so damaging for many reasons, not just for your relationships and marriages, but like even personally, like it makes you so insecure, and it just makes you like long for something that's not even real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's just, again, as I was getting to, it just distorts your perception of what love is, what sex is supposed to be for. And the other thing, I hadn't got the sex talk. And I didn't, I didn't, in my home, it wasn't necessarily like a biblically based home where we're learning about the Bible. When I was 7, I started going to church every other weekend with my dad, but it just never really, I never heard about that. Even in the church, sometimes I think sex is like taboo.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know what's the point of this. And this is my first thing.
And porno is teaching you about sex and
and it's just like, it's distorted. Really so I bring that into, one of my other struggles was just girls. I think that started my freshman year, just using girls. And, I think I lost it when I was 15 years old. And again, I lost it in the context of like, oh yeah, I'm watching pornography and this is what this is supposed to be. And so I'm supposed to chase it. And the other thing that's so sad when I think about is like just laughing with my friends and bragging about I did this and that. And it's just like, it breaks my heart, but that was the reality of where I was.
Well, everyone was doing it, I'm sure, all your friends. So you
have to keep
you
up.
don't know it's bad or wrong. It's normal.
Yep.
You know?
So I felt like I had to keep up. And so using girls was a big part of my story in high school. And like, you know, looking back, I just feel terrible, you know, because now, you know, I've got a daughter and I just think about how like, gosh, like, you know, I would hate if someone treated her the way that I treated them.
And something you said is like chasing the feeling, like this false feeling, which then I'm sure it kind of like pornography, once you get like past there, tired of it, then you can get easily like addicted to another feeling.
Exactly. Yes. And that's what it is like, part of that is I remember like getting that feeling and it's gone so fast in an instant. And then it's like, oh crap, I messed up again. But then, I got to get it. And it's always more. And that's the nature of sin. You need a little bit more and you need something new. And then it's like, before you know it, you cross lines just a little bit and you're down the road. So that's a big piece of my story is just sexual promiscuity. And then the next piece of my story in high school was my senior year. I got hooked on drugs. And to preface that, I think I started smoking weed when I was in 8th grade.
Wow.
You know, and tried some alcohol with my friends. Like I remember one of my friends in his basement, he had this old Mexican tequila and it was in a wineskin. It was just like, and we would drink it and it tastes like gasoline. But like I was in seventh or 8th grade.
Oh my gosh.
And we would just like take a little here, a little there. And I just dabbling in that. And then, you know, weed when I was in 8th grade. And then my senior year, I tried ecstasy for the first time. And this was like that step where, again, they say like, you know, marijuana is, people argue, is it a gateway drug? Is it not? You know, maybe left alone in itself, maybe it's not as bad as some other things. But I think the idea is like when you're with those types of people and again, maybe weed runs out, it's not as fun anymore. And then it's like, someone's like, oh, hey, I have this. That's kind of what happened to me. And I remember I took that one time, my senior year, and it just hit me like nothing else I've ever experienced. And it was just like this immediate, I was just hooked.
I think that's the problem with like weed, because weed is so like normal now, which is, you know, really sad. But like there are so many friends of ours years ago who were like starting to do weed. And I remember them saying like, oh, it's just weed. Like it's not going to do anything, or it's not, like they just make it sound like it's not a big deal. But then because I've never tried it, but you explain like, no, listen, that's how it starts. But then once you get bored of it or it doesn't have the effect anymore, because you've done it so much, you will go to the next thing. And then like that's how you escalate to something that is really not good for you. But nobody just jumps to like meth or you know what I mean?
And I remember it was the silliest thing. I never really liked how I felt when I smoked weed. I would get paranoid and kind of weird. And it wasn't until like my tolerance was so high that I didn't really get high anymore, that I was like, because I was smoking it every day. So it's like I never really liked to smoke weed, but then I did it until my tolerance allowed me not to be high. So eventually it got boring and it didn't hit me, as I'm saying. But the point of that is like my senior year, I got hooked on that drug, and it was such a battle. I remember the battle within myself. There was nights where I would like listen. I made a CD specifically with all of these like songs that talked about doing drugs and stuff. And I'd listen to like, oh man, I can't wait to do it. I'm so excited. I would literally wake up with night sweats. I remember this one night, like just like I was sweating and I had a dream about it. And I just wake up and my heart's racing and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to do it again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it got pretty serious. But then there was the moments of like, gosh, I need to quit. Like I knew, I could tell like this isn't good. You know what I mean? So I'm wrestling with myself so much so that I actually ended up going to the counselor on my own. And I feel like this also tells a little part of who I am. Like I'm kind of an honest person. Like, I'll be real. Like, even here, like, we're like here on Life Upside Down, we're just like so real about our life. And I'll just open up to people, and I'll be honest. And so, you know, part of me, there was that battle, and I was just honest. And I went to the school counselor. I'm like, hey, I think I have a drug addiction. I like don't really want to keep doing this, but my body is like, you should do it. And so she ended up calling in my mom, and we talked through it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. And I want to say that was like 3 weeks to a month before my prom. And I remember, even though I was kind of in counseling and I was like, I want to do better, there was this part of me that's like, just do it one last time. Because I had done it at a couple of other proms, which we'll get to in future stories. Yeah, we'll get to that story. But anyway, and so like prom was like, it was a dance, it was a parties thing. And that's kind of what that, you know, ecstasy does. It's like all about the party. And so I was like, just one more.
Like you're just thinking it's just going to make it that much more fun.
Yeah, just one last time because I'm doing better. I don't need it as much, you know, which I think also is addiction will trick you. It's like, oh, I haven't done it in 3 weeks.
Just to know it's not very fun for the
person.
For the day,
we'll get there. We'll get there later.
Just a tip for everybody.
Hey, I hope that you are enjoying this episode. I just wanted to come in real quick and let you know that we are a nonprofit podcast that is made possible largely by donations. If you have been encouraged by anything you've heard here on Life Upside Down and you feel led to give, you can click the QR code and head over to our giving page. We truly want to say thank you so much. Every gift makes it possible for us to continue to tell more people about our living God. So I told myself I'm going to do it one last time at my prom. And it was so crazy. I remember that morning, the morning of prom comes, and I'm laying there in bed, and I had this like crazy experience. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like I was dreaming, but it was like my spirit was out of my body, and I was seeing my room as it was. And in my dream, I get up and I go to the closet where I had put the pill, and I like take a bite of it, and it crumbles in my mouth, and I just start tripping out. And this was the morning of my prom, and I'm just tripping out. And in my dream, I'm just like, I kind of lost my mind, and I wake up from it, and I'm just like, whoa, that was really weird. Like it felt kind of real. And all day in my head, it's again, the battle. It was like, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't take this pill. I should like not do it.
So this is like a warning, it was like a hard warning before you did it.
Yes. Like I truly believe there was some kind of warning, whether it was God or whatever you want to call it. It was weird. And all day I had this terrible feeling in my stomach. Don't do it. Don't do it. But my addiction was like, I'm going to do it. So I did it, and I ended up having a bad trip. And I remember there was this specific song, and I remember exactly who it was. There was a song, it was about you spin my head right round or whatever. And I told myself, because I was listening to it, hyping myself up. And it was like, when that song comes on, I'm going to go crazy. That was literally the song that I lost it. Like that song came on and the room starts spinning. And I'm just like, I told my date, I think I'm dying.
This is at the prom.
This was at prom. Everyone.
You tell your date, I think I'm dying.
I told I was like, I think I'm dying. I got to go to the hospital. So I ended up going to the hospital that night.
Did she take you?
Yep. She drove me. And then I went home that night, and I was tripping. I was hallucinating. And it's so crazy because actually 3 years ago, I talked to the person that I got it from, and I found out it was a bad pill. Because the people who usually were selling the stuff, like they had got busted in this big bust at the school. And then like the pills that were there now were different, and they were laced with some other crazy stuff that left me. So that was me.
So like you're lucky that was like alive?
Yeah. And I had the sad part is as we're moving forward in my story, like coming out of high school, that didn't really stop me. I continued to. Yeah, I know, right? Karina, it's so funny because you're such a goody two-shoes.
God has so much grace. God has so much grace. I would have slapped you a couple times.
Well, you tried. We'll get to that later.
Tried.
You didn't slap me, but
no.
You tried to speak life to me. We'll get to that in another episode. But anyway, Yeah. So I didn't learn. I was going to say, it's just funny because you were such a goody two shoes. You just have a hard time.
It wasn't that hard.
Hearing that. It wasn't that hard. Not for you.
To not
There's
die.
other people out here who have to learn a little harder lessons. Okay. So coming out of high school, just another piece of my story is like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I barely got through high school, barely graduated. My parents were so glad. Thank the Lord he made it. I had some other funny stories that maybe I'll tell in another place. But, I almost didn't graduate because I got in some other trouble. But anyway, graduated, coming out of school, my parents were like, okay, Ryan, you either need to like work full time or you got to go to school because, this... You gotta figure out something.
Because we're tired of you.
Yeah, we're tired of you. Like either start working for something or you gotta leave. And so it's so funny because I ended up going to school. I went to community college in my town. This is the funniest part. I went to school for criminal justice.
Why is that?
It was because I was watching the show Cops a lot. So I was basing my career path on the show Cops.
Not because you've encountered cops so much.
No, not because they like inspired me or something, but it was because I was watching the show Cops and I'm like, oh, that looks fun. So I went for a year, didn't take it serious, just failed. Honestly, kind of living a silly lifestyle still, trying to get high when I can, drinking, driving around town, doing nothing worth anything. And so I would say, about 2 years after high school, I started getting this itch of like, man, I got to get out of this town. Just
So you're like 20 now, or are you 19?
Yeah, I was about 19 or 20. And I'm just like, it's so funny. I just convinced myself that my problem wasn't me. It wasn't my decisions that I was making. It was the boundary around the town that I was in that was saying I was in this town.
That's everyone's mentality.
Right. Like I think that's a common thing. We like, it's a reality of life. I think for a lot of people, we try to run away from our problems. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, this is where my trauma has happened. This is where all my issues have been. It's the town. And so I drove an hour and a half up the interstate out and went east and I, moved.
Your life was solved.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, here's a new beginning. And it was so funny because I literally hung out with the same people. We did the exact same thing.
Who left the same town. Everything
We did the same thing. And I don't know what we thought we were going to find, but we didn't find it. I moved.
You found each other.
We found each other in a different place. Yes. And so same thing, drugs, partying, like I became a kleptomaniac there. Like I was stealing and like, it was just like a really dark place of just like, not working. I didn't work. I just bummed off people and drank alcohol and did drugs. And it was a pretty bad place. And around this time, Karina, do you remember when I called you with some news of my new adventure?
Yes.
Yeah.
You were going to sell everything. How'd you feel about that?
Yes.
And hitchhike the country, right? Oh my God. You literally sold your car.
We did. I did. I sold my car at a discount rate.
The word was that these two guys were selling everything very cheap.
Yes. For real. So.
And I was like.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Karina was smarter than that.
This was you're going to discover yourself.
Yeah. So that's it. Like, again, I ran away from my problems from my town. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get away. And then here it is doing the same thing, like same sin, same lifestyle. And I'm like, part of it, I think I was also kind of lazy. Like I didn't want to work. So I'm like, well, hey, if I don't have a house and I don't have stuff to pay for, I don't have to work.
If you have to hitchhike the whole country though,
I can just ask other people for money. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I called you. I remember that because we were friends. We'll get into some of that of our story, but I called him like, yeah, we're going to travel the world. We're going to go I'm going to discover myself. And I just ended up doing the exact same thing that I was doing. We just kept drinking. We never actually did it. We just
and now you're
kept
carless
partying.
And
now I don't have a car.
Your TV
living off of my friends. And so I did that for about a year. And after that year came up, I moved back to my hometown, which I think that was 2012. So I moved there in 2011, moved back home in 2012. It was just kind of springtime. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like I knew I needed something different. That year there, I was like, wow, I epically screwed up. Like I actually realized like, okay, I need to change something in my life. So like now I'm kind of starting to be like, okay, like I need to make a change. And so moved back home and then very quickly got antsy again. And I'm like, I got to move out of here again. So it took like 2 or 3 months back home. And I'm like, I got to move out of here. This place is holding me back again. And so then I ended up moving out to the Omaha area.
And then you're 20 now? Are you 20 at this point for sure?
Yep. I was about 20 or 21. So it would have been 2012 if you want to do the math. I was born
I feel like that age is where you're kind of like
91. So
trying to get some like your life somewhat figured out.
Yeah. And that's a good point. That's a good point. I remember when I did live for that year that I was just like really lost in everything. I remember like it's almost like a midlife crisis, if you will. Like I know I wasn't middle-aged necessarily, but like it was a moment where I had to really look at my life and be like, do I want to live this life? Like, what am I doing? And I remember like, I didn't want to grow up. Like I did not want to grow up. Like I was wrestling with the fact that I had my own responsibilities. I had to work a job to pay for things. I wasn't doing that, but like, I was really like, man, like I don't want to grow up. And I remember reminiscing on as a kid, like I remember watching Boy Meets World. That was like my show.
We still watch that.
Yes, we do. But at this point, I hadn't watched it for a handful of years. And so I was just clinging on to the nostalgia. That's a real thing.
You said you like bought some toys too to like, I don't know.
Yes,
maybe.
I bought some old toys that I played with when I was a kid. And I'm just like man, like I was like clinging on to childhood.
Tried reconnecting like a relationship with like your childhood girlfriend. Just trying to bring some kind of nostalgia, like,
and I think that's a real thing that we, in some ways, wrestle with our whole life, right?
Yeah.
Like there's times where we kind of revert back to our old ways, or we try to find comfort in nostalgia. So I was doing that, and it was a really hard time for my life, and I think that's why I was covering it up with all this other stuff.
And I think I'm assuming it'd be very sad if like you're like grabbing these things and it's just not working anymore.
Yes.
Like that's a really sad.
I remember when I was like 8, or I was maybe 6th or 7th grade, I still had my toys, right? And I remember those moments where it was like, it's not the same. It kind of reminds me of Toy Story. Toy Story 5's coming out soon, right? And it's just like, man, it's not the same. And it's sad. It's part of growing up and adolescence and stuff. So anyway, so I went through that in 2011. Moved out to the Omaha area in 2012. And at this point, like when I moved back home the first time and I'm like, I got to make changes, I kind of was like trying to get into like positive energy. Like, let's, like I need to do better for myself and I need to be a good person.
Which is like new age stuff mentality.
Got into some,
kind of maybe.
Yeah. New age. I think
it starts with like positivity and then.
Positivity, positive vibes. Like, I just I need to quit being such a bad person. I think that was the key right there. Man, I'm such a bad person. You know what I mean? Like I have been being bad, but now if I'm good, maybe my life will get better. So I kind of start going to church. And the girl that I was seeing at the time, like, I think I went to church because she was going, and I was kind of like hearing things about God at this time, but it was still very much about me. It was about, I want to be a good person. Like I need to do better in my life so I can feel good about myself.
Is that your idea of like being a Christian or a godly person is just be a good person? Yeah.
And at this point I knew you. And so I knew some like Christians who were cool. And I was like, oh yeah, you were definitely really cool. We'll get into more of that.
A cool Christian.
So I was like, I need to do something different. That was the other thing. It's just like, I need something different. So I'll try this out. And I remember one time we were supposed to go to one church and we ended up at this other church just by chance. And at this time, part of what I was like into was like manifesting and like manifesting my reality and like just, you know, like some of those new age kind of mindsets.
And you got deep in that too.
I did. Yeah. Like trying to control my dreams, other things like that. But again, it was all kind of like, I'm going to be a better person. And so I go to this church service that we weren't actually supposed to be at, but we ended up there. The first thing that was crazy, the worship pastor's name was Ryan Martinez. I had never met another Ryan Martinez in my life.
Like your legit full name.
Yes.
You should have asked him what his middle name was.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'm like, that's crazy. And again, I'm like all about manifesting my life, and it's like weird. Okay. So then, you know, the message was also about dreams and goals and chasing after things, and which great concepts. But for me in my life, it was like, I'm going to manifest my own life, and I need my own goals and my own vision for what I want to do. But the message kind of spoke to me. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Right. And so then I'm up there, in my seat, and I'm looking down, and there was also it was called Master's Commission there. And it was like 19, 20, 21-year-old younger
like
adults.
Young adult stuff.
That were like basically doing almost like an internship, if you will, and just really connecting with God. Mm-hmm. So there's all of these people my age worshiping like I had never seen. You know, the church that I had gone to from when I was a little kid, like, it wasn't very charismatic. It was more reserved. And so people didn't raise their hands and people didn't cry out. And so I was seeing this from people my age. And I was like, there's something different there. And it was exciting. I was like, I remember in my seat, I was thinking, whoa, what is that? What do they have? I would love that. But then my next thought was, but that couldn't be me, because I know what I've done. I remember I started to realize, like, I'm not a very good person. I'm kind of starting to understand that, you know, I've hurt a lot of people. I've disrespected God in so many different ways. So I'm like, that can't be me.
That's sad.
I couldn't be that, right? Because I'm not a godly person. And
because we all are just
right. I know, right? We're all so great.
That's really sad, though. No, I think that's really common.
Yeah. So then jump forward a couple months later. That was, this is kind of where my life really started pivoting. And I found out that I was going to be a father for the first time. And it just really made me analyze my life of like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And I started to realize, like, I'm about to be responsible for a human being. I have no idea how to even take care of myself. You know what I mean? And I'm supposed to, like, take care of this human being. And so it honestly kind of sent me into a spiral of like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And I had to like question, like, am I ready to just totally change my life? Because I knew I was still kind of dabbling in some of the old habits. Like, as much as I was wanting to be a better person and stuff, I was still kind of smoking weed and still kind of drinking and still being selfish. And so it took me to this place of like, whoa, I had to really analyze. And honestly, I spiraled. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say, like, I think, you know, it's one thing if it's just your life and you're like responsible for your life. But like, I can only imagine the weight of like I could mess up somebody else's life, like if you don't get your stuff together. So
yeah,
the weight of that.
It's such a sad place to be. Even as a parent now,
mm-hmm.
thinking of like the ways that I mess up and fail every single day, you know, it's mm-hmm. hard.
Yeah.
And so I think the idea of like me almost being certain, if I keep living like this, I'm going to screw this.
And you're 20.
I'm going to screw up this kid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to live my own life. So I went into this spiral for like, probably like 2 weeks. It was a dark, dark place.
The story of my life on rewind. I'ma take you back in time, back in time, back in time, back in time. Yeah. I'ma take you back 5 years ago, the night I went from death to life. Through the Holy Ghost, it was a dark night. I was feeling lonelier than Bruce Wayne. Living selfish, just me and my shame. Christ brought me to my knees, questioning why the pain, why the hurt that I feel inside. Pretty sure I wasn't ready for the answer, but God said you better get ready, cause I'm about to answer. Just like that, bam, flashback. I'm a little kid again in the middle of an argument. It's tug of war, mom versus dad on the rope. They're fighting so bad I'm about to rip in half. Oh no, all this fighting is making me sad or maybe mad. I'm only 5 years old, honestly I can't grasp what I'm feeling. Everything I've been told is a lie. Love is conditional, you say bye when things go awry. Now my heart needs stitches. I'ma build a wall taller than Trump Tower. Nobody's getting in it. I got these memories lodged in my brain, covered up by my imagination. To ease the pain, flash forward back to where we started. It's starting to make sense. All this gloom and darkness. That night God put a shovel in my hand and dug up a bunch of memories I could barely understand. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. The memory I never had caused the deepest of pain. Not one kiss, not one hug, not one memory of my parents showing each other affection or love. I never understood till that moment that my parents like a love for each other left my heart broken, left me hopeless. Just another broke kid longing for a love I just didn't have hope in.
And I was just like, I'm not ready for this. I remember even contacting an old, trying to get in contact with a dealer to try to get some ecstasy again. Again, it's like these moments in life where we almost want to like run back to something we know. I remember feeling great when I did ecstasy for a moment. And so it's like I was trying to run back to that.
So when the pressure comes, you want to run versus.
Yeah. And I think that's it's a common thing that we all experience. Even I still experience it. I'm still uncovering so much trauma. I'm still uncovering things today. We are all still in process. And so like I'm trying to like run back to what I've known in that moment. And I luckily I never got a hold of any drugs. I couldn't really locate it. But I just remember self-wallowing.
Such a God thing.
For like, yeah, I know. For like 2 weeks. Because who knows? I wanted to touch on this because we were talking about this the other day, Karina. I honestly think I was close to being an addict. Like the church that we go to is in an area where there's a lot of addiction and homelessness and homeless encampments. And we see that weekly, essentially, like people who are like wandering the streets and they're laying in the cold, passed out. And it breaks my heart. Like when I see those people, like I wish there was more you could do for somebody like that, because like I know how close I was. And it was just like, I think a few days ago we were talking about it. I don't know if I fully realized how close I was to being a full-blown addict.
Yeah.
I remember this. There was a one time where like I took what I thought was an ecstasy pill and I was with my friend, and a few hours in, he's like, dude, I think we were on meth. Like, and I was like, no. And then I realized I was like, I do feel weird. And so like, I never got into it, but I could have easily gotten it, like full blown lost in it. And so I'm just like, at this point again, like I'm just thankful looking back that I never found it, because maybe that was the breaking point for me. I was at a breaking point. If I would have found it in that moment, maybe that was a breaking point where I just go all in. I'm like, I'm just going to get lost in this stuff. But anyway, I'm in this dark place. And I remember I'd been hearing about God now at this point, going to church here and there, hearing about God's love, hearing about who he is.
Your friendship of 3 years.
My friendship of 3 years. Yeah. Oh, yeah, from you. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I was like, who is that from?
No, Joel Jesus in your head quite a bit. But.
Yeah, you did. And so anyway, I'm sitting here in my room, and all of a sudden I start to have this realization. I suck really bad. I've hurt so many people. I have dishonored my parents so bad in so many different ways. I have broken hearts of so many girls, used them, used people, used friends, selfish living. And I was like, I'm so bad. I suck so bad. And then the next realization, so I'm realizing like I'm way down here. My next realization, because I'd been going to church, is like, God is so holy. He's this perfect being who like I could never even get close to. And there's this level of fear of like, I wouldn't want to, because I know me. And so for the first time in my life though, like I'm sitting in this for like probably 15, 20 minutes. For the first time in my life, I go, oh, that's why Jesus came. Because God is up here, and we see it all through the Old Testament. Time and time again, like on our set here, we have these pictures of moments where God miraculously delivers his people. And he does these wild things. We're sitting on set here. This is an example of how God is still alive and moving. He does these incredible things for the people who love him. And as we stay faithful to him, and even when we're not faithful to him, he does things for us. And yet over and over and over through history, people fail, fall short, mess up. And so I'm like, that's why Jesus came, to make a way. And it clicked for me for the first time in my life. And it was so powerful. I start weeping, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, Jesus, you made it possible for me to have a relationship with God. And I remember that first night, the Holy Spirit, like I'm getting chills right now. The Holy Spirit fell on me in a way I can't even describe. And I finally understood I can be with God. It doesn't mean perfect. Doesn't mean, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, even the relationships that I messed up, or the people that I hurt, like that all of a sudden everything is picture perfect. There was a lot to work through, a lot of trauma to uncover and work through. But in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I can receive Jesus and I can actually be in a right standing with God. And it was such a powerful moment for me. And the first thing that God showed me was that love is unconditional. That is what he did for us. Even when I sucked, even when I was at my worst, that goes for everybody living. He came down into flesh. God fit himself into flesh, and he came into our world, and he took he took the cross, because this is how I finally understood it. We demand, like, sin demands justice. Here's the thing. If your grandma, Karina, was murdered in cold blood, you would expect justice, okay? We're made in the image of God. We would expect justice. And let's say the murderer goes to the judge. Oh, hey, judge, I'm sorry. My bad. Oops. Just let me off. And the judge said, oh, okay, yeah, you said you're sorry? Okay, we're good. You'd be angry. You'd be furious. It demands justice. And so it's like the sins that I did, the things that I've done wrong, the ways that I've come against a perfect and holy God, it demands justice. And so in that moment, I realized that God became justice for us so we could be with him in eternity. And then all of a sudden we can have this relationship with him. And then, you know, in the Old Testament, we see they're trying to like be with God, and they have to sacrifice animals, and they have to do all of these things just to be with him. Now we have a perfect sacrifice who actually lived in our world, lived a perfect life. And so I realized in that moment, like, God was justice for us. And in that courtroom, when I should have been the one getting tried, he says, no, Jesus took the penalty. Now the question is, will you receive it? Do you want to go to prison? Do you want the death penalty, or do you want to let Jesus take it for you? And I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior that night. And then his Spirit fell on me. The Bible also says, like, when we understand that and when we receive that for ourselves, that invitation, all of a sudden his Spirit starts working in me and he starts moving in me. And that night I experienced his Spirit in a crazy way.
I remember you told me you were in such a dark place that you were like, well, before this realization hit you, you were like legitimately saying like, either God, like this is your chance to show me you're real, or like my life is done. Like, end my life now. Like you, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's why you're subconsciously like seeking drugs, trying to just like end your life, like just finish me. But you were at that point where you're like, finish me or change me, because I'm not going to continue like this.
You're right. Yeah, that was kind of that was like the breaking point. It was, God, take my life. I'm tired of messing up and screwing up and missing the mark, or change me. And to say that, so I received the Spirit, and the greatest victory I had that night was a victory from pornography, because that truly, the drugs, that was a struggle, but the sexual stuff was always...
How many years would you say that addiction was?
That addiction was probably from when I was about 11 or 12, 7th grade. Of course, I started watching it when I was younger. You know, I saw it for the first time, you know, I think, like I said, I was 7 or 8. And then, every once in a while, like on HBO at night, like that kind of stuff, like, secretly in my house, but consistently probably about 12 years old. So then at that point I was 21. So that's, what is that? 8 years, 9 years? Oh, I shouldn't try to do math that fast, but anyway.
But you said that was like the biggest,
my biggest victory.
Yeah. Because like, honestly, there's people who still like, who can't get away from that. Like that's something that maybe you could like overcome it, but then like, if back. Anything pops up and it reminds you, you can go back into it. So that's a huge victory that that was incredible.
It was that night I gave my life to Jesus, and then it was boom. He took it from me. And this is the thing that I was saying, his spirit falls on me in this crazy way, and he starts living in me. My desires changed. I didn't do drugs after that, I quit doing pornography.
Your priorities, your
priorities just totally changed.
Everything.
Completely. Yeah. And it was like so obvious and for me, that's evidence of how the Spirit of God works. Because the thing was with pornography, like I would try to quit and I just never could. It was like, it was shameful, and I was like, oh, I don't really like it. But then it was always the next time it came up, I got to, is that addictive personality in me, and I would just do it. But for the first time, it was like true freedom. Like that was so powerful. So yeah, I received the Holy Spirit that night. And then, you'll hear some of my music throughout the podcast. I've got a music ministry that I've been doing, since that night. That's the craziest part.
Well, you said that you said love was unconditional, but you said you had a realization that your parents' divorce was like,
yes. Oh, yes.
The most like the trauma.
Yes. Thank you.
Where
for
love wasn't real. And
yes, exactly. So I'm so glad you brought that up. So I realized that my parents' divorce messed me up so bad, and I didn't realize it. And again, I love my parents so much. And so this is not like a slander at them at all, but it's just to say that's the reality. But as kids, we're really good at covering stuff up with our imagination. Like we just are. And so I didn't realize it till that night that all throughout high school, I was trying to cling on to love. The thing is like, I would use girls in a physical way, and it was like, but I would actually, get what I wanted, and then I would be gone. But I would convince myself and the other girl that like I was in love. I would try to be like, oh no, like I'm really in love. Like I really have strong feelings for this one. You were there for some of that.
You would call me as a friend to tell me how you really found the one this time. No, this one's for real. And then a month later, no, this one's real.
No, seriously. So it was all feelings based. And the thing that the Lord showed me in that, like I said earlier, is love is action. Love is something you do. It's not just how you feel. And that realization was like powerful. And then I realized, wow, my parents' divorce really hurt me. So then growing up and in high school, I was trying to find love in all of these other ways. And then, pornography convinced me, well, maybe love is just purely sensual, and it's just, a physical thing you feel. And that's where the connection comes from.
Well, then you get this realization, and you said you started writing your first song. So it's like, the moment you had the Holy Spirit download, you started getting these lyrics that you couldn't stop thinking, dreaming about, and you wrote your first song, which is What is Love?
What is Love?
And I think we have that original paper, and it has your teardrops on it where you were sobbing.
Yeah, so to give you a picture of the first week of me being saved. So the next morning after that night, I get up and I start writing my first song. And I had been flirting with poetry at this point, but I could never figure out how to put it over an instrumental. That was always a struggle for me. I couldn't figure out bar counts and stuff. And for the first time that next morning, something clicked, and I started writing line by line. And the first verse was about my parents' divorce and just how it hurt me. And I mentioned earlier my parents, playing tug of war. Like I even mentioned that in there. And it was like I would I would write like a half of a verse, and I just start weeping and sobbing. And it's like years and years of trauma and pain and struggle and, dealing with my mistakes and the things that I had done like they all just came out. And I think I also understood in that moment, like, dude, crying's kind of important. Like getting things out, talking about things, like having friends or relationships where you can get some of this stuff out. It's important because I realized I never really had friends where you could talk deep about that kind of stuff. You know, it's not really cool to be vulnerable and that kind of thing. And so I just spent the whole week basically writing songs and weeping over them. Of just like these realizations that God's showing me of like love is like so much more than a feeling. And so in the first week, like literally 7 days, I wrote about 8 or 9 songs.
Wow.
I would literally go to bed thinking of lyrics and I couldn't sleep. And then I would come out, like literally one night, I remember specifically, I went to bed at 3 a.m. I was writing all day. I literally had like thoughts and dreams of lyrics. And I remember popping up out of bed. And then I went right back to it like at 6 a.m. So I slept like 3 hours that night. And so for a week, I'm just going, and literally it gave me this appreciation too of how the Spirit can work in our life, or even how the Bible was written. Sometimes I think we think, oh, the Bible, it's so mystical. And it's not like, you know, God came down and as a ghost and he wrote the Bible, but he inspired men. Like, I believe that's real. Like, he works in this world and he can inspire us. And so, like, I feel like his Spirit moved in me in that first week of being saved, like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. Although now this whole podcast experience in the last 2 months, it kind of similar. Like his Spirit has just been moving and leading. And so for the last 13 years, you know, just to kind of like put a bow on it, like God's just been moving, and I have I say humbly, because I've been failing left and right. I've been walking with Jesus, but I'm realizing this walk of faith, this walk with God is not about perfection.
No.
It's not about like, oh, I have to figure out my life and then I'll come to him. That's not what this is about.
People have this perception like, oh, Christians, they think they're righteous or perfect. And it's like, it's actually the opposite. I feel like Christians acknowledge they're not and they're far from it. Like, that's why we're Christians and we go to Jesus, because we're like, we can't do this. Like, we need something higher and bigger than ourselves. So we actually don't think we are close to perfect. And I like how you talked about just like divorce it's a real issue. It's a big problem. But God is bigger.
Yes.
God redeems things, and he redeemed that divorce, and you're blessed with 4 parents who helped you in different ways and guided you differently, and you're still really close with them.
Yeah.
And then even just like the trial, this was technically your biggest trial. This is what like either broke you or got you closer to God, was having a baby. You had a little girl.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like I remember you even like sharing this and just people, you're not the only one who's been through that, you know, like when you hear those words and you're not ready, you think this is it, my life is over. And it's like, God used that. So God redeemed the fact that you're having a baby, and he used your little girl to draw you closer to him. So she was even like a huge blessing, you know? Yeah. So like God can redeem anything. There's no issue that's hopeless or that can ruin your life. You know what I mean? It's never too late.
Amen.
You know?
And that's it. Like that's where I want to wrap up. It's like, God is so real. God is moving in this world today if we will let him, and he can move in your life. Like the fact that I am here, Karina, the fact that we are sitting here is an absolute miracle. It's absolutely proof that God is still alive. Like, we're going to get into some of the details at another time of life upside down and how we are here and how he moved. But that is it. I shouldn't be here. I should not be here. And it's all God. That's where I want to leave it. It's all him.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Ryan, and I just want to say thank you so much for being part of the Life Upside Down community. In the next episode, we're going to be getting into Karina's story, and I'm telling you, it is powerful. So make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications, because I know her story is going to move you.